Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to a truly
Oh,
extraordinary episode of the Weekly BS. I am Scoot, middle name Scott, and although it's been a very hot summer, see what I did there?
I I wish you
Although
hadn't.
it's been a very hot summer, this episode's going to be even hotter. Joined, as always, I'm here with Brad, and Brad might have said you're looking mighty slim.
Oh yeah, God,
You're looking slim.
about to leave.
Uh,
Oh
Brad, tell us how psyched you are
God.
to be here for this episode.
I don't have an outline, but I did go through and tab a bunch of comics and put everything in a chronological timeline for us to talk about Cyclops. Because
If
I've
all
been
of
a
you
fan for
didn't,
quite a while.
all of you didn't catch all of those references that I just dropped there as we came in, you're not a true Cyclops
We're
fan.
clearly talking Cyclops today.
Today is going to be Cyclops and more Cyclops and what you've all wanted more of. Brad talking.
More Cyclops. I will correct you
Brad
in your description. You say he's my favorite Marvel character, and he is not my favorite Marvel character. He is my favorite comic character in general of all time.
I didn't want to speak out of turn.
He could beat up Batman. That's how cool Cyclops is. And by the end of the night, you guys are gonna agree with me, or at least know why I think so.
That pillow that's behind Brad's head, not to jump too quickly into show and tell stuff.
Yeah,
He's had that since we shared a room when we were little kids.
probably like 92, 93. That thing's
Yeah.
older than some folks in this chat.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Aaron's not in, but is definitely more than 22 years old. I think he's 22, 23. I probably got that pillow when I was about 4, and I am 33.
I had a Wolverine one.
But he didn't love
It
it
was
as much.
mine, but apparently I didn't love it as
And
much.
the coolest thing is it's reversible, and you got a big psych face on the other side. So,
Brad's all Cyclops all the time.
oh yeah, all the time. We've got a couple of comics on display. Alex Ross's recent Legacy cover, which is pretty awesome. Walt Simonson's Cyclops kind of X Factor look, my favorite look of his for sure. And the comic on the top's really special because it's from Chris Claremont's run of Uncanny X-Men and signed by the man himself. Very nice guy. Hell of a nice guy when he was at Expo. Sat and talked to everybody. He had a line circling the building.
He basically became our friend that day.
He was a good guy.
So really quick, I know we're at the beginning here. We'll say hey to folks. Hayashi, how's it going? Corey, how's it going?
More folks come in, tune in.
As more folks come in, you guys chime in. Let's get some stuff going in the chat. Some love for Cyclops. Hopefully some love for Cyclops.
I know Matt will probably show up here in a little bit.
Yeah, because this commission I'm going to be drawing today is for good old Matt that's always in the chat. Matt in the chat.
I just got a picture of Corey with his cat wearing the exact same shirt as you.
Really?
Yeah. Here it is.
I got it right here. Hold on.
That's
Hold on. We got a Corey
least
break.
embarrassing Corey photo we've ever gotten.
Hey, yours looks much less faded than mine. Good job, Corey.
Equal amount of pet hair.
We're Twinkies. Long distance Twinkies. So, real quick, I don't have anything show and tell wise for my art or for Brad since we had a lot to show last week. However, I have given the art bug to Miss Scoot. So, we're going to bring up this picture right here that she drew for me earlier today because I'm a huge elephant fan. I love elephants. Elephants should be protected. They should be loved. So she drew me an elephant, and I wanted to share this with all you guys because that's true love. True love. So if you guys aren't following her, go follow her. She's doing some art stuff, and she's diving into the colors and stuff. Place that I'll never, ever find myself diving into.
I won't let you ink, let alone color.
Yeah, Brad won't let me.
No time, yeah.
I live vicariously through Ashley, her inks and colors. So you guys go give her a follow. Tell her how good a job she's doing. She's doing Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, and it's turning out pretty baller. So
I think she's telling you to quit your job, chase your dreams.
she might be in a roundabout way. It might be it. So you guys be on the lookout. We're on vacation next week, but we're gonna do our spooky live stream from Florida. It's gonna be.
I'm just gonna come here and finish whatever picture you're working on.
You should.
I'm just gonna draw it.
Brad just shows up. I'm like, I'm live on YouTube.
Scoot's live. What are you doing with my pages?
Yeah.
That's my commission.
So, we also have. I'll bring it up.
You should have brought up had Havoc and Cable ready that you did for Matt, showing because this is part of a series that Scoot's doing. Matt Nick is a fan of the Summers family, and so he's slowly getting all of them.
He is. I've done Cable. I've done Havoc.
Gabriel
Actually,
must be next.
Did 2 Havocs.
Gabriel, and then you'll have to do Corsair.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
Hope.
as soon as my commission list opened, he was like, "Give me that Cyclops." I believe that's exactly what he said. Give me that Cyclops.
I think he's the first one at all times. He's just waiting. He has notifications for you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into this drawing, but real quick, I do have the Brad cam pulled up here. Again, we're going to be in my drawing thing, but we have a camera here so that Brad's show and tell can actually be seen.
Yeah.
And so
I'll slide some comics in there. I've got some stuff to talk about, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep. So let me go ahead and jump into some artwork here, and you can see him down here.
Yeah, we'll see how it
he'll
goes.
be right above me there.
Let me
And I have not prepped for this drawing at all because I was at work today.
Yeah, I not related to comic stuff. I survived my first punk rock concert full of pits, and then immediately I slept for about an hour and 12 minutes, and then got up and did an event for my run group. We put on our first race event, and it actually was this huge success. I was dead tired, but it was super fun. So Scoot asked me for 2 things: prepare a presentation, and then take those lovely pictures I took of myself surrounded in my Cyclops stuff, which I gotta say is not all of my Cyclops stuff.
I sent Brad a message, and it said, "I think it's time for you to be in the thumbnail for a video."
Yeah.
And he already said I'm on it.
He said, "Yeah, can you take some with your Cyclops stuff?" And I was like, "All of it? Is it gonna be a panorama?" So I left out a bunch of stuff, but it was still fun, and I had a lot of fun putting all that stuff up and putting it together. Matt Nick was blown away. That's from a lifetime of collecting Cyclops stuff. He has always been my favorite character. I don't even know where it began, because like as a child, like who's my favorite Power Ranger? Green Ranger. Who was my favorite Mortal Kombat character? Reptile, because he wore green. I mean, like all of my favorites were based upon color. Like so many, like all the other kids. I like this character because he wears red or whatever. I have no idea how long I've liked Cyclops. I've liked Cyclops before I knew I liked him. So I have always defended him. And so I kind of have a thesis for today. I once read some stuff, and a bunch of people will back it up, and they will say that when Joss Whedon wrote the Astonishing X-Men series, which he did with John Cassaday, super good series if you've ever read it. Really fun, really good, grounded X-Men, but back to not even grounded, more rooted in its tradition, its history than Grant Morrison. So Grant Morrison wrote New X-Men, did 3 massive volumes. 2 of them were great. One of them was drawn by Mark Silvestri. The last one was drawn by Mark Silvestri. I wasn't a fan of it. Fan of the art, not the story. But if you've ever read Grant Morrison, I have a theory that he hates superheroes. And so like the X-Men in his run wore like leather jackets and didn't really have suits, and they all just went by like Scott and Logan, and they kind of did away with the superhero-iness of it all. But when Joss Whedon took over, the first issue, Beast has a line where he's like, I mean, is anybody else excited to see the costumes? And they went back to their costumes, the full, like, you know, jumpsuits and X's all over the place and fun superhero costumes. And that was kind of a little slap at him, but I will admit, Joss Whedon's Cyclops is really cool. But a lot of people say that's where he became cool, and they are wrong.
Tell us where it started,
where
Brad.
Cyclops became cool was here at X-Men #1 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He has been cool since the beginning. I tried to
hilarious.
I tried to I wanted to edit it. There's a Idris Elba in Community, or not Community, in The Office, when they're like all the girls are fighting over him and they just cut to him real quick and he's like, "Yes, I'm aware of the effect I have on women." Yeah. I wanted to edit Cyclops' visor on and make a meme because he is a thirst machine. Like, people just go nuts for him, and there's a few reasons. Like, there's not to jump ahead in my narrative, but some writers have talked about, because of his like mental state and there's something unique about Cyclops' mind that makes especially psychics attracted to him. And even like during the Dark Reign, he trapped a portion of the void from the Century in his mind in this cage that even like Emma Frost couldn't do. So there's some interesting stuff like that, but Cyclops has been cool since the beginning. And I'm going to start with something else real quick. Get out of here. Corey said I thought Jim Lee created Cyclops. That's so stupid. I will argue that my least favorite costume of Cyclops is Jim Lee's Cyclops. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. This one.
I'm just your picture back
I like every Cyclops, and I'm going to prove that at the end of this presentation because I have books no one else will buy. But I still think Cyclops, either his costume like this one, the swashbucklers where he's got like the boots on, the like pirate boots, that's one of my favorites. But Walt Simonson's X Factor is definitely my favorite. But part of my thesis, part of what you have to explain of why Cyclops is so cool. So I'm going to put this up here real quick. I'm going to reference Secret War by Brian Michael Bendis. And we're going to go through the Trinity today. We're going to have Brian Michael Bendis show up. We're going to have Christos Gage show up. And Jonathan Hickman. But we're going to start with out of order. This is the most out of order we'll get. We're going to start with Secret War. If you haven't read this, it's a really great event story. It's just, I believe, 5 issues, and Bendis just tells this weird story that like Nick Cage recruited these several superheroes. So like he gets Power Man.
You said Nick Cage?
Did I say Nick Cage? Nick Fury.
Oh man, Nicolas Cage, hell yeah! That's why Cyclops is so cool.
You can see he recruits Daredevil, Luke Cage, Black Widow, Wolverine, and this is Spider-Man, and then Quake, and he takes them and basically invades Doom's country, and he does this very illegal governmental move, which also very illegal but very American move, which is try to topple a foreign regime. He weaves this great story with everybody and how Nick Fury took their memory of it so that they kind of like plausible deniability. And throughout it, he tells why he chose each person. But in the back of the book, he has rejected candidates. And some of them are really interesting of why he rejected them. But he has a dossier on Scott Summers. I like it. First of all, he's 6'3" and 195, which that's something else. He gives him a power level of 7 with his optic beams, which we're going to set a few things straight. And Nick Fury gets it right. He projects a beam of heatless, ruby-colored concussive force with his eyes. It's not a laser. It's not a heat ray. It's not laser eyes. It's a concussive blast, like an Eldritch Force, Eldritch Blast in D&D. It's like you're getting punched with his eyes, which sounds way cooler than lasers. I was pretty happy when I first watched. Not once I actually saw the movie, but when they introduced Cyclops in Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse, crappy movie, very terrible movie. But when they introduced him, the first thing he does is he shoots like a stall door in a bathroom because his powers are manifesting, and he knocks it back and it just dents it. And I was like, oh, cool. They got his concussive blast correct. And then the next time they show him, Xavier's teaching him how to use his powers, and he cuts a tree down and it catches fire. And I was just like, they got one scene right. Well, first of all, you have to understand that Havoc was older than him in it. Which Scott Summers is the oldest of the 3 Summers boys. Scott, gosh, what the hell's Havoc's name? How can I not remember that? Well, their third son is Gabriel.
He's not as big a fan of Havoc as he is Cyclops.
Yeah, obviously. No, I'm not a fan of the Summers family. I'm a fan of Scott Summers. Actually, like the Starjammers suck. Corsair's not cool. But I like that he notes that Scott Summers' eyes are brown, but glowing red when using his powers. So how he knows what colors Scott's eyes are, who knows? I've stared in my whole life and I still didn't know that. Welcome on, Justin. You're not too late. It's only just a little bit.
Yeah, we're just getting started, man.
But he has a really interesting thing. Something I always liked about Scott Summers that Bendis did a good job of putting into words, and I'm going to read it right here. He says, Summers is a natural-born leader and a master strategist, especially in the heat of the moment. Oddly enough, the less time he has to think about and allow doubt to creep in, the better his decision-making. But he lacks a certain killer instinct that this mission requires, something the Canadian, obviously Wolverine, obviously has in spades. Summers is also a bit too reliant on his team. He counts on them as much as they do him. He counts on them as much as they do him. Couple of very interesting points we'll pull up here in a second on that. Summers is currently the headmaster of the Xavier Institute. His role as the leader of the X-Men and shaper of new generations of mutant children may be the limit of what he can handle. Plus, according to reports, he's involved with Emma Frost, which is funny that Nick Fury thought Emma Frost had her claws in him, and like later you find out she was really like deeply in love with him, and they had this weird connection where like every thought between them went back and forth because he couldn't keep too many secrets from her, so she wouldn't allow she didn't want to keep secrets from him. Really good stuff, and really made when they broke up suck. Skipping forward again, I'm really sad in Hickman's Avengers, or Hickman's X-Men. Eventually, Scott and Jean got back together because I wanted him and Emma, but him and Emma still share something which I really like. But I love that observation that Scott Summers is and should always be the field commander of the X-Men. He's not the leader at all times, not always, but Charles Xavier chose him for that ability more than his power. Scott Summers is almost like Reed Richards. There's a good parallel between them where Reed Richards can stretch, sure, but Reed Richards is the mind, and Cyclops plays a very similar role. Matt said, "Oh, I love what I see so far," and that's just Brad. Not you talking about what Scoot's doing.
Blue lines. Look at this. I'm actually putting a face in there.
So yeah, for you guys who came in a little late, my thesis for this is that for this today is that Cyclops wasn't made cool by Joss Whedon's run. He's been cool since X-Men 1, which is why that's up on display right now on the Brad cam. It's not a real X-Men. Interesting things. I love the idea that his decision making is just unparalleled in the field. He is just the guy who you need to snap decision. You want him in the foxhole with you, not necessarily at the back making, like pushing the troops on the big map and making these decisions for an entire army. He's the squadron leader. So I love that because it eventually plays into other things. Because if you watch his trajectory throughout Cyclops' trajectory throughout his fictional history, he is happy to be the leader, but it gets thrust upon him in a way he did not want later on once you start getting into Utopia. Very cool stuff that comes in from the House of M. But so I think we'll come back to all that later. I like him being headmaster. I loved him with Emma Frost. That's probably the best thing to me that came out of Grant Morrison's run. Really cool stuff. Secret War. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, and it's a great way to reference and start with Cyclops. Just that little dossier that Nick Fury gave on him. So let's jump into X-Men. If you haven't read the original X-Men, I won't say, you'll never always hear me say you should I'll never say you should definitely read old comics, because old comics are kind of like old movies. Sometimes they move at a different pace. And if you're not super into them, like when I have new people come to me and say, hey, I want to start reading comics, where should I start? I want to read the X-Men. I never say start at X-Men #1. I would usually probably choose like something from the Utopia area, maybe Chris Claremont's Giant Size X-Men, still a great place to jump in. But old comics are so full of exposition and I won't say useless, but very different tone in how they're done. But I read this for the first time several years back, and I could put a date on it because sadly I remember I started reading it. I literally started reading this the day before Stan died. So it really hit home that I was reading something he brought to life, something that's always brought me and my family joy. We used to play X-Men as kids. And so I read through it, and what I was most impressed with is how fully formed Stan's team was. Is if you read a lot of comics, the characters you go back and you can think about any character, and you're like, think about Wolverine. You think, oh, Wolverine's got adamantium claws, he's got an adamantium skeleton, he's got this huge healing factor, he's from the Weapon X program, he's done this and that. But if you go back and read Wolverine's history, none of that's well defined early on. When he first fights the Hulk, I don't even know if they talk about the weapons program, which I guess technically later Grant Morrison made him Weapon 10. He's not Weapon X, but when you get to Claremont's run, it's tens of issues in before they even mention he has a regenerating, like a healing factor. They usually just mention it as he has a what do they call it? Like they say he has like he's just durable is all they say. But there's great stuff, like there's a lot of the stuff like that you associate with the X-Men, like to me my X-Men, the Oh My Stars and Garters, just the relationship between the characters, and they're all fully formed. Like Stan had them in mind, and I really was impressed by that. It was, stuff evolved later, stuff was retconned later, but what the core of the books and the stuff that stays true to this day still exists. And what I like about bringing it back to Cyclops, that he shows a lot of instances of how Cyclops can fine tune his optic blast to the point like he even uses it like one of the other team members uses it's trying to like reach across the table or something, does something rude, and Cyclops zaps his hand with the optic blast, basically just slaps his hand from across the table. And they show him in the danger room where he hardly trains because he is the most advanced and most battle ready of all of them, so he's usually helping them, and several times they fight him in the danger room and he beats them solo. Something he continues to do throughout the series. Like he's continuously shown being able to outsmart and beat entire teams of people, which I think is great because he just uses his brain. His power is not, his power level is nothing to like, even Wolverine's, because Wolverine's powers allow him to do a lot. And Cyclops can still beat him because he can outsmart him. But one of the best examples of that is when they first meet Magneto. So they first meet him, and when they do, Cyclops is kind of weary, but all of his team members are getting beaten, and Xavier basically says, take off the gloves, punch him, and he hits Magneto hard and knocks down his magnetic field he has that's protecting him. And in it...
With his optic blast?
With his optic blast, yeah. So he said, I'll switch to maximum power. I can only maintain this pressure for a few seconds, but I did it. And then Magneto's, shocked, and somebody beat his power. He's the most powerful mutant on the planet. His own power is attacking me. Some power is superhuman as my own. So immediately Magneto, who was laughing at these kids, and he already took out every other X-Man, he is impressed and like humbled by Cyclops. And in fact, remember that moment because we're going to come back to it later, but I really like that display as Magneto is on the verge of conquering the world, the first issue of X-Men, and Cyclops takes him down with one punch. And it's really there's more to the fight, of course, but he's the deciding factor in that punch. So I thought that was really good. There's plenty of really cool moments in there. The X-Men really holds up. And there's things that, of course, Corey said next stream I draw while you talk Cyclops with no prompts for me. So it's basically a test. So Scoot's got to remember all this. Some other cool
I'm not
things.
going to. So.
Some other cool things they talk about, or that they have in here, is of course Jean Grey shows up early on, in the first issue, and boy, she comes into a school that has 4 students. They're all dudes, and Angel, Iceman, and Beast are all over her. They are just thirsty fellas and not hiding it. And Cyclops is over there just staring at the moon, being his cool self, and Jean Grey's like, oh, these thirsty, and she looks over, bites that lower lip, and she's like, there it is, locked on, and she is all for him. So she definitely got it soon that she was wanting him. So this one I don't have anything to quote out of, but Cyclops continued to be awesome throughout, and then boom, Giant Size X-Men #1 redefined X-Men. Brought it into a modern era. I believe that started in the 80s. Really great thing, because they even like cut out like the older generation. It's supposed to be like everybody was graduating. They were moving on, and everybody left except Cyclops. And there's even a great scene where Cyclops is talking to Jean, and Jean's going to college, and she wants him to go with him, but he still feels like he is obligated to stay and train the next generation and help keep the X-Men going and help fight for the people who hate them, save the world that hates and scorns them. And what's good about this series is there's a great, definitely 80s comic setup where Magneto has a volcanic lair.
Yeah.
And they go down there and fight him, and they beat him, but in the process he self-destructs his lair. And Xavier thinks that the X-Men died in the eruption. So he woe is me for a while, and eventually leaves and goes to lives with the Shi'ar. And he lives with, what's her name? Melandra, there you go. Scoot's got me on weird, obscure stuff. I never remember that, and for some reason, Scoot, who reads one comic a year, knows Melandra. So
I can usually remember comic issue numbers too for some reason.
Yeah, you're really good at those, because I'll be like, yeah, it's the first appearance of this guy. You're like 147. I'm like, okay, sure, I can't argue with you. And even if you've established yourself as such an authority that you could lie, and I wouldn't question it. But Cyclops, in that, when Xavier leaves the planet, you end up finding out, of course, the X-Men didn't die. They end up, I believe, in the Savage Land, because of course they did. And they're down there, and they're just trying to survive, and the team is really just like beaten down, and they think they're all gonna die, and they're lost. And Cyclops picks a fight with the entire team, and he serves all of them. He beats Storm, he beats Colossus, he beats Wolverine, he beats Nightcrawler. He beats every single one of them in a fight. Of course, not Warpath, because Warpath died in the second issue. And
he died very quick.
Yeah, he died very quickly, unfortunately. And Cyclops fights them all, and they all eventually are about to attack him and overwhelm him, and he calls a truce. And he was basically just, giving them the swift kick in the butt they needed. Long story short, they end up back at the X-Mansion. They find it abandoned because Xavier's been gone. They've been missing for months. And they just start living back in there. And Cyclops becomes the full-on leader of the X-Men. And he takes control of them. And then he's field commander and leader. He recruits some new people. I think Jean comes back at a certain point. Because this volume right here is just the first one. But first, I don't know how many issues. Probably 6 issues at least. And it ends with Jean in space getting possessed by the Phoenix Force. But she eventually comes back because, of course, Cyclops saw his new costume, saw his abs in it, and she's like, boy, I'm back. Let's do the X-Men again. And so there's a great thing where he leads the X-Men, and Xavier eventually finds out they're alive, and he comes back. Xavier's like, hey, I'm back, guys. I'm here to lead. And Cyclops is like, why?
Nah, bro.
Why are you back? And go live on your planet. You had your happy life. I'm doing it now. And it's this idea that the student took over for the master, and Xavier, if you ask me, I mean, you can argue whatever you like, but Xavier from that point until Avengers versus X-Men had no purpose. he had some fun stories. He had some arcs. They retconned it, put him back in the leadership, but the natural progression was for Cyclops to take over, and it felt earned, and led to this power struggle between them. And of course, eventually, as my signed issue up here says, Cyclops leaves after Jean dies, and Storm takes over. Once again, natural progression. Xavier is the old master, and it's okay that he fades away. And you can see later people couldn't figure out what to do, and apparently, very famously, when they were planning out, like all the writers were planning out Avengers versus X-Men, they were trying to figure out Xavier's role, and everybody was saying, well, he's not useful. And Bendis said, then why don't we kill him? And they said, why don't we have Scott kill him? And immediately, someone who has had nothing interesting for a while happen becomes an interesting character again. But we're jumping ahead a little bit. Because, of course, Cyclops leads this team for a long time, and he eventually comes back and challenges Storm for leadership again. And I think he fights her, if I remember correctly. He fights her and then lets her keep it. Yeah, I don't think there's any... It's like every superhero fight. There's never a clear winner. Yeah. But he lets her stay because that's what she's supposed to. And that's when he goes off and starts running X Factor. Once again, not super sure on that. But as much as I said, I preambled that Joss Whedon did not make Cyclops cool, we're still going to talk about him. Because he may not have made him cool, but I'll be damned if Cyclops was not awesome in it. So the core team you see on the front, the only one that's not on the front, there's, of course, Cyclops leading it, Beast, Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, Wolverine, and Colossus shows up in the first issue, I believe. The only real important thing, like I said, there's in Grant Morrison's new X-Men, there becomes this weird like love triangle almost, where once again of course that starts out with Genosha being destroyed by the Super Sentinel and killing 16 million mutants in one swoop. One of the few survivors is Emma Frost, so they bring her back to the Xavier Institute because Xavier's people still lived with them, and Magneto was king of Genosha. Emma comes to help them because that's all she wants. Like, everybody thinks Emma Frost is like Hellfire Club and like this conniving, super, badass chick. But she's talked about several times her favorite thing to do is be a teacher. She likes shaping minds, and so she comes to the Xavier Institute. So first thing through the door, there's Cyclops. There's that all-American look. There's those abs. And she's like, bites that bottom lip. Boom, Cyclops has got another one. Him and Jean are on the outs in it. They're kind of trying to figure out their relationship. There's a lot of good stuff where they talk about they fell in love, because I think the X-Men are supposed to be, like 13, 14 when they first join up, when they first are assembled by Xavier, which once again, if you know the thing, Xavier and Magneto want the same thing, but from different views. And you also got to point out that Xavier radicalizes a bunch of children and uses them as weapons. Xavier's at least fully grown, or Magneto's are at least fully grown. So they have Jean and Cyclops are kind of on the outs, and Cyclops and Emma kind of have a psychic affair. And Jean catches them, and they're finally kind of coming apart. And of course, Jean Grey at the end of Grant Morrison's run does the one thing she's good at, which is, Scoot, what's Jean Grey good at? Dying. Jean Grey is good at dying, and when she dies, I got an answer right, guys. She had kind of was like, hey, it's okay to move on, Scott, because I have. And then she dies, and Scott pulls the Mac on Emma Frost.
How many of you out there have had that look given to you, that same look Braddock is describing, the biting the bottom lip and staring into your eyes?
I think I had it when I saw the Galactus trilogy at 901 Comics recently. They have the 3 comics of Fantastic Four, and I had a similar look when I saw that. But so coming into, give me a drink of water here.
Yes. Yeah. How are you folks doing out there? Y'all following Brad? I told you this is going to be a talking episode. He's got a lot to say.
We're 35 minutes in. I'm about a quarter through. There's room for us to talk and do other stuff, but I just think, like, people let's stop here and we'll reevaluate the thesis. Cyclops didn't recently become cool. Cyclops has always been cool.
Say it with us. Cyclops has always been cool.
And throw it in the chat. Cyclops was right. Cyclops has already been cool. And that's something that I think has been an opinion because he's the Boy Scout. He's the guy. He's the straight guy. I've talked about how I like straight guy characters who don't
sexual.
Sometimes Hayashi's a true high school student. He's just like spouting it back. But if everybody, if
at
that
least
was
you're listening, Hayashi.
If that was a nerd opinion that Cyclops wasn't cool, because of course Wolverine's the cool one, the bad guy, roguish man killer with a soft heart, but the movies solidified it in nerddom because Cyclops in the movies, as much as what's the dude, James Masterton or something. Justin, someone's just calling here.
Having trouble repeating.
I'm about to get out the band hammer.
Brad's about to get the band hammer out.
So, but no, the movies took Cyclops, because this is a good point, because the movies actually took place during Grant Morrison's run. And he wasn't the field commander like he was supposed to. He wasn't as powerful he was supposed to be. He didn't do anything. He was
nothing in those movies were what they were supposed to be.
He was nothing but the guy Jean was with to create somewhat of a love triangle. But Wolverine was just macking on his girl, and honestly, Jean should have gone with him. Like, if I had to choose between movie Cyclops and Wolverine and Hugh Jackman, I mean, come on. But
Cyclops has always been cool, except the movies.
No, comic Cyclops has always been cool. Let's put that little asterisk there. So Cyclops comes into this and he's dating Emma Frost. They're together. He's getting the team back together. There's been all kinds of craziness. And early on, he's in bed with Emma Frost because, of course, he is. There he is with her. And if you can read it, I'm going to try to read it upside down. So Cyclops is here sleeping. Questionable why he's sleeping in his visor. I don't know. People make choices like that, and I don't really go for it. Like, I like when he just sleeps with his eyes closed and he keeps his little sunglasses on the side, which, of course, are made of ruby quartz. So Cyclops is there snoring, passed out. Emma is in a sex coma, of course.
Absolutely.
And so there's a little bubble that says, "So tell me," and you flip the page, and Wolverine's posted up in his room like a real creep, and he says, "Which stage of grief is this? Denial?" Cyclops responds by blasting his Canadian ass out the window, blows him away, and I love it because they're about to fight. And it's a great relationship. Scott and Logan have a fantastic relationship of how they're two polar opposites, and that's what makes them such good friends, and that's what makes them such good teammates. There's several things. And Grant Morrison's Cyclops, when he's going through his like love thing with Jean, his when they're on the rocks, Logan goes and gets him drunk, and then Phantom X comes to get them for help. And Phantom X is like, "We're not taking Cyclops," and Wolverine's like, "I trust him with my life. He is the best man I know." And so it's one of those things where they almost hate each other, but their respect overrides it. And I love it because right here, Cyclops is touching his visor, and he says, "Hey Logan, that healing power's about to come in real handy." So they're about to scrap, which of course people intervene. But if you've ever read this, which first, of course, there's going to be spoilers. This is a great X-Men story because the X-Men had kind of become like the butt of jokes where they basically had to be saved by other superheroes. And this is just an X-Men story. The FF show up, the Avengers show up a little, Spidey, but it's an X-Men story. And there's a great thing where that man Cyclops comes up with an entire plan while they're having like a psychic chain conversation to trick the villain. Then sacrifices himself, and I love it because he's dead. He knows he's going to die, but the aliens that they're fighting have found a way to revive people. So he's more like he was just kind of in a coma. Wake him up, and the guy's like, "Tell me what this Project Leviathan is." And Cyclops just like, "Nah, dog." Opens his eyes up, full releases an optic blast, and blows like a lighthouse beacon from the planet that can be seen from like solar systems away. Super cool Cyclops moment. Not where he became cool, but a cool Cyclops moment nonetheless.
Say it with us. Cyclops has always been cool.
Cyclops has always been cool. Oh no, I actually sent me a picture.
Uh-oh.
He took a look at that. I think that might be my proudest moment ever.
I
actually edited my picture of me sitting in the throne of Cyclops, and I gotta say, like,
pretty well done.
I think if a psychic redhead came in the room, she would bite that lower lip and just fall for it.
I'm sensing a theme with this. There's Cyclops has always been cool, and some woman's gonna bite their bottom lip.
So yeah, before that, I mean, Jean died, of course, back in when she was the Phoenix. Actually, she died in the issue previous to this, previous to the one Claremont signed for me. Later on, he met Madeline Pryor, a redhead, who saw him, all American good looks, hair flowing in the wind, saw those abs, bit that bottom lip. Odd. So that's really where I know Chris Claremont hates that they retcon Madeline Pryor out. Matt Nick says Storm was a better leader. I won't agree, but Storm is a great leader. Storm is a fantastic character that is underappreciated sometimes, but don't worry, because she's going to make an appearance later. Annie will appreciate it. You guys will appreciate it. So,
and don't worry, one day we're going to do an X-Men appreciation. Before we were into Spider-Man, we were into X-Men.
Yeah, it was probably right around the same time, but yeah, definitely. Like, so Mama Starnes in the chat, and she definitely bought this. Bought those Cyclops. I've got my Cyclops X Factor toy at home. I forgot, but right around this time, I cannot believe it. I forgot a major book for Cyclops. So
hashtag not a real fan.
Well, whatever. I brought a box full of comics and earmarked them. You better get out of here.
Brad was here before I got home from work, and he goes, I've got everything ready.
Yeah, I've got everything ready. I came over here and read through stuff. So during this, something I forgot is that there was the House of M, which, of course, if you've read Avengers Disassembled, Scarlet Witch kind of goes nuts, and her powers are just going wonky, basically like WandaVision, but she is just causing havoc. So Magneto takes her to Genosha, the ruins of Genosha, and kind of hides her there. And Xavier and her are trying. Xavier's keeping her basically locked down, keeping her locked in from destroying everything, from rewriting reality. And the Avengers, being the Avengers, because another thing is everything is okay until Captain America decides it's not, and then he's right and you're wrong. We're gonna come up to that for Avengers versus X-Men. So when the Avengers go to take Scarlet Witch, to take care of her, not kill her, I mean, because they're not going to kill her, but they're trying to go solve the problem. Well, when she comes up and tries to attack, I believe Magneto fights back. And if you don't know, Magneto is a BA, so the Avengers were not ready, but she flips out and rewrites reality to where mutants are on top, where mutants are the superior race. Their Homo superior is superior. And the humans are kind of seen as, like, other than Spider-Man and Miss Marvel, everybody's kind of seen as second-class citizens. And of course, who's head of this? But Magneto. Magneto is like the king of the world, I guess. I know he might be president. He's the leader of the world.
President of the world.
And eventually, people start finding out that she rewrote reality. And they slowly start gathering force. Funny enough, House of M is definitely a mutant story. It's an X-Men story, but it is an exceptional Spider-Man story as well, because he goes through this whole thing where when she rewrites reality, she fixes certain things, and in it, she gives Peter his life. She gives him the marriage, the successful marriage, the kid, and then when he comes back to reality, it's a great scene where, like, in the alternate reality, that there's a mutant that lives in this reality that lets you remember how reality was. So it's kind of this idea that Scarlet Witch really wanted somebody to stop her. Really fun idea. And they seed the Secret Invasion in it too, because it's Bendis, once again, all hail. And they eventually, of course, they go back and they go to stop her, and they get this huge fight. And it's the famous scene where there's just the ruins of this reality, this perfect reality that Scarlet Witch thinks she made, and she, in her turmoil, she says 3 words. She says, "No more mutants," and they kick back to the 616 reality, and it seems like everything's fine, and then they start noticing things are wrong. Like Iceman comes downstairs and he's like, "Is it hot in here?" And he's just pouring water, and he can't form any ice. And then they see I believe there's like a flying mutant, and they just fall out of the sky. And it ends up she depowered like 98% of the mutants and left less than 300 with their powers. Great story. Put the X-Men on this like endangered species list. Really put them in a, like somebody made a good point, was the whole point of that story was, how can you be the minority that's feared and hate, that's feared and hated, when there were supposed to be like 20 million of them? Like at that point, it's getting a little absurd. There's so many mutants and everybody still hates them. So they depowered the majority of them and led to a bunch of really great stories. And to get back to a side note to Spidey, all the Avengers are in Avengers Tower, and they're all like patting each other on the back, like, "Good job, guys. We fixed it. We did okay," and not thinking about the people they crushed under their boots, being the mutants. And they're all just like having a good laugh. "Haha, reality's fine." And Spidey just like slams his fist, like destroys the table in front of him, and he's like, "Everybody shut up." And he's just in tears because he lost the life he could have had. And it's this really, really sad Spidey moment where, when you get a serious Spidey moment and it's done well, it really hits home. Sort of like JMS when Strange let Pete see Uncle Ben for 5 minutes, and Uncle Ben didn't care about Spidey. He just wanted to know that Pete was happy. And it's just this really touching moment, really solid Spidey moment. But what that did is it made where the mutants were so... There was only 300 of them now, and then you still had stuff like the Purifiers and all these hate groups that were going out killing mutants. Actually, they gave Storm a really good arc where she almost goes Punisher and starts going after people who killed depowered mutants, because people still see him as corrupted, being depowered, because they still have the X gene, it's just turned off. And because of that, you get into kind of there's a San Francisco, a bunch of the mutants end up going to San Francisco, and they kind of take them in and adopt them, and like the city protects them. Really good stuff. But it leads to a thing where Cyclops becomes not the field commander of the X-Men, not even the leader of the X-Men in general. He becomes the leader of mutant kind. And it's a very interesting spot to put Cyclops. I loved it because, one, well, of course I loved it. He was, who wouldn't want to see their character become king? But it put him in an interesting position because we go back to what Nick Fury said. Cyclops is good in the moment. Cyclops is good that when he's in the middle, when Doctor Doom is destroying New York, he can make the decision to drop a building on Doom. Maybe he's gonna do something where he sets off somebody's power that'll destroy a city block. He's gonna kill hundreds of people to stop Doom, but by stopping Doom, he saves millions. So in the moment, he can do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But the longer he has to think of decision, the worse he gets at it, because doubt creeps in, and so he becomes the leader of mutant kind, and he has to make decisions for all of mutant kind, and it becomes this really weird place where he has to pivot and become a different type of leader. Thankfully, he has Emma there to help him, and it's really, their dynamic is really good. He surrounds himself with people. He pulls Magneto under rein. He's like, you're a mutant. I got to protect you. You've got amnesty. But you've got to be better. And he helps Magneto become better. Let me see. We're gonna slip something else here while we're talking. So, of course, when anyone's giving absolute power, they're always afraid it's going to corrupt absolutely. And that's where we get to this great variant cover of Fear Itself by Terry and Rachel Dodson, where Cyclops is dressed as Magneto because that's what he fears the most.
Did I get that cover for you?
You did not.
Okay. I got you some Cyclops.
You probably in here somewhere. But it's this great thing where Cyclops is now walking this razor's edge of losing who he wants to be. He doesn't want to be the leader. There's even a great couple of times where everybody's arguing about what to do, and he's like, hey, look, you guys put me in charge, and I hate that every time you guys put me in charge and then I make a decision and you fight about it. If you want me in charge, fall in line. And they all listen to him and do what he says. But I think he sees himself becoming corrupted because he tries to keep the good in him. Like, we'll get to Schism here in a little bit, but there's a great series of The New Mutants by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who did the excellent cosmic annihilation through Thanos Imperative, which we could talk about one day. That would be a great topic. But they did The New Mutants, and in it, it's after Schism, and they stay with Cyclops, but they leave and they go live in San Francisco again. And Cyclops supports them, and then they save Blink from something. I forgot what she was getting into. And she decides to stay with Logan, and she's talking to Cyclops, and they're like, I'm sorry we couldn't keep her for our side. And he goes, there's not sides. I'm happy she went where she wants to feel at home. And it's this thing where him and Wolverine, if you've ever read Schism, we'll get to in a second, but great story. Great, once again, shows the divide between Wolverine and Cyclops, where they vary, and kind of where Cyclops started kind of losing himself. But I couldn't find, I've got the issue digitally. I don't have it in a trade, unfortunately, but Fear itself, once again, great. Fear itself is a decently fun event. Read it for nothing else other than there's the Unworthy, who are like 6 hammers drop to Earth, and all these people pick them up. The Thing, the Hulk, Absorbing Man, Titania, and they become all of these different the Unworthy who fight for the Serpent, and they feed off of fear. And there's a great moment where they're like the Thor and the Hulk and Thing are tearing up a New York street, and Thor walks out and he's like, I hear you feed off of fear. Well, tell me. And then they cut, and he's just jumping into battle, swinging Mjolnir. He's like, do I look afraid to you? And it's just like this really great moment. Really, like that series wasn't the most not even well thought out. It was a well thought out series, but it excelled at hero moments. And the other example of that is Thor is fighting the Serpent, Jormungand, or however the hell you pronounce his name in Norse. But he drops Mjolnir, and Cap is basically the last Avenger on the line from this invading army of Unworthy and Nazis and all this stuff. And there's this guy helps him up, and he thinks it's Luke Cage. And he's like, Luke? And he's like, no, my name's something else. And he's like, I don't know if there's any Avengers left. And Cap grabs Mjolnir like he does in Endgame, and he says, I'll tell you something, son. Today we're all Avengers. And he lifts Mjolnir, lightning goes everywhere, and he says, Avengers Assemble. And it's just badass. It's just
goosebumps.
Yeah, no, it's a great scene. Like, Matt Fraction is a great writer, and he wrote that. And like I said, it wasn't my favorite event, but absolutely killer page turns. Like, comic page turns are an art, and him and the artist for that absolutely blew it out of the water. So really cool scene. But during that, the Juggernaut gets one of the hammers, and he becomes Unworthy, and he marches on San Francisco. And the mutants protect San Francisco. And whenever somebody tells me to explain Cyclops, I send them this one panel. Cyclops is talking to, I believe, the mayor of San Francisco, and she's like, hey, do something. And he's watching, and he does a plan. Like, he's like, all right, go team. And they try it, and it fails. And she goes, she goes, well, on to plan B. And he said, plan 2. She's like, what do you mean plan 2? And he goes, plan B assumes I only have 26 plans. And I was just like, what? That's Cyclops. Cyclops is not the guy who thinks of 1 or 2 plans. He's not the guy who thinks of, God, if this doesn't work, Cap has a great line in Endgame where Black Widow says, don't worry, it's going to work. He goes, I know it is, because if it doesn't, I don't know what I'm going to do. Cyclops is never that person. And they're just going through thing after thing after thing, trying to beat him. And he ends up getting into triple digits of plans. And that's, to me, that encapsulates him, is he has all of these plans. And not only that, but he has all of mutant kind at his disposal. So he is combining powers. He is combining teams. He's pulling people left and right. There's a great one during the Messiah War where Hope is born, and he calls in every team. And some of the teams are like X Factor and the New Mutants. And they're like, you're not our leader. He's like, I am right now. I'm the leader of mutant kind. Fall in line. Once again, so women aren't biting their lips as much because Emma's keeping them away, but fall in line is his theme for his slogan for the next few years. And that line where he's just like, no, plan 2, plan B assumes I only have 26. I'm just like, that's Cyclops.
Who wrote that?
I have no
That's
idea.
a great line.
It might have been Gillen. I'm not sure.
That's a great line.
It is an exceptional line. Like, it's one of those where I'm pissed that I didn't think of this. Let's see. Matt Nick says, that's my point, though. This is why I love that. I feel he is a better leader for the X-Men than Storm. I just felt based on writing, Storm wouldn't have made those difficult decisions. You're right. Storm has a much more conscience-driven, like, thought process. But eventually, I forget what happens. There's a great thing during the Dark Reign. Once again, they're still in San Francisco, and I think it's during the Dark Reign where they move to Utopia. And in the Dark Reign, the Dark Avengers, led by Norman, come and attack San Francisco because the X-Men. So Norman Osborn has the Cabal. It's his version of the Illuminati, and on it are Emma Frost and Namor. And Norman, of course, Norman being the strong man, he thinks he's just this great guy, thinks he's just the leader. Everybody on that damn council except the Hood didn't care about him. They were just bamboozling him. Doom was just watching him and ready to kill him if he needed to. And then Emma and Namor were there under direct orders from Cyclops to spy on him and make sure he was staying in line and not going to hurt the mutants. I love it because when you think about it, Namor has I couldn't find the issue, but Namor has a thing where he's talking about why he follows Cyclops. He is the leader. He's the king of Atlantis, but also a mutant. Why would he fall in line? Why does he bend the knee to Cyclops when he won't even do that to Xavier on Krakoa right now? Well, Xavier went to him and said, hey, we got this great nation, man. Every mutant's there. You should come. And he's like, get out of here, you pretender, and just kicks him out of Atlantis. No chill. But Cyclops, Namor follows. Also, a really great scene when they come after the Dark, because they try to establish the Dark Avengers, or Dark X-Men. When the Dark Avengers come for the X-Men, of course, the Sentry's part of them. No one on the X-Men was ready to fight him. But when they go, they all start pairing off, and Namor goes, I've got the Sentry. And I like Cyclops goes, did he just say he's got the Sentry? And he really had like a 2-second fight, but Namor really gave it a college try. And there was really great things with Norman and him. But eventually the Dark Avengers drive him out because Norman runs the United States and all of their defenses. If you guys remember, I didn't bring it. I should have. In Jim Lee's X-Men, Magneto, once again, go back to kooky Magneto plots. Magneto lives on an asteroid. He floats around the Earth. Asteroid M. Lives up there by himself. Trying to stay away from the world. People hate on some mutants, kill a couple of mutants, and he has to come out of retirement. Well, Asteroid M's been up there since the 90s. They pull it out of orbit, Magneto does, and they drop it just into international waters by San Francisco Bay. Yeah, Dark Reign was great, man. The Dark Avengers is so solid. Probably the only, I always say Dark Reign was the only time Norman Osborn's been interesting, and I'm not wrong. But they moved to Utopia and become basically a sovereign nation. Don't know why why do the X-Men gather on islands? Who knows? That never works out for them.
They love islands.
They love islands. So they establish Utopia, and they become a nation. So now not only is Scott the representative of the entire mutant race, he is now the leader. And there's no government. It's basically a military dictatorship, something that's someone in Cyclops' position should never be part of. And then, let's see. This is actually, I got this a little out of order. So we're going to do this. So we're going to move on to something that shows what happens when Cyclops becomes leader. Now, if you guys have never read Doom War, my God, do yourself a favor. Doom War is a pretty self-contained story. You know, if you know that, like, where Black Panther lives, you know where Doom's from, you know they don't like each other because they're two separate nations. And the only thing you really need going into this is know that T'Challa and Storm got married, and that the X-Men are living on Utopia. And in it, Doom kind of does like a silent coup of Wakanda. and he takes over. I don't want to spoil everything because I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm just going to talk about the first issue. But my God, it is probably one of the best. Let's see, it's 6 issues, maybe. Yep, 6 issues. By Jonathan Marbury and Scott Eaton drew it. Probably one of the best limited series ever. One of maybe my first or second favorite Doctor Doom story. And then pitting Doom versus Black Panther was incredible. But in it, Doom does a silent coup and kind of plants some fake news and gets Shuri and T'Challa kicked out of. Basically, they have to go on the run from Wakanda. So then they go to their friends and they go to the X-Men. So he goes to them, and because Storm was unfortunately captured by Doom in the coup, and so he goes to the X-Men for help. And let me see, I've got some stuff here I wanted to. So it's funny because the first thing they ask is where's Storm, and he says, and T'Challa says, Scott, I know how things must look, but believe me when I tell you that there's a good reason I fled. I had to choose between my wife's life and the future of my entire country. I chose my country. So once again, this is something that Jonathan Hickman did really well with the New Avengers. Is showing how Namor and T'Challa had more responsibility than anyone else on the Illuminati, because Iron Man just has to be an American. He's not the president. He doesn't have to fight for an entire country. He just has to do what he thinks is right. Very interesting idea. And so he goes in and tells him the whole story of how Doom kind of silently overthrew him. Wolverine's still mad, telling him, he has a great line, says, get to the part where you threw your wife to the wolves. Great little jab at him. Cyclops is sitting amongst everybody, just kind of absorbing everything, letting everybody kind of throw shade where they want and kind of, have their pissing contest like all heroes do. But I like because he's silent. He's also kind of evaluating. So T'Challa's basically come to recruit the X-Men. They've got like 500 Dura Milaje, but that's it on their side. So he's come to get the X-Men to help. And Cyclops says, to save your wife, you must invade a kingdom that's never been conquered by force of arms and spill the blood of your own people. And then he finds out, like, they talk more about what's going on. But where is it? Shuri says, I have a small team, a small support team, and T'Challa has repurposed the Dura Milaje into a covert op force, 500 strong, and ready to lay down their lives to reclaim Wakanda, but it's not enough. Storm is family to all of us, so she's trying to appeal to them, and T'Challa says, and Doom is a threat to everyone, because this whole thing he's doing is going to make him ridiculously powerful. Great panel right here where Cyclops is just contemplative, just trying to figure it out. Once again, you got to remember, Cyclops is not good at splits, or not good at the long game. He's good at split-second decision-making. So he's trying to make this great decision, this hard and heavy decision, and he says, this island utopia is a brand new entity. Its global status is fragile. A single move that makes us look like aggressors on the international stage could quickly have the entire world aligned against us. I can't sanction our involvement. And T'Challa says, I understand. He understands the same way he had to leave Storm, his wife, behind to save his entire country. Cyclops cannot get involved and risk his own country. And they get back into they're talking. Cyclops gives them a little like aid, like loading, like gives them supplies. And they're talking a little more, and Cyclops says, a few months ago, I'd have dropped everything to run right off the fight. And T'Challa says, I have no doubt. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Always a good Shakespeare, drop a Shakespeare quote in there. I did it last stream, if anybody called it, modified. Said, a true leader must consider the big picture, Scott. Must understand that sometimes sacrifices must be made for the benefit of the whole. And he stops T'Challa, puts a hand on his shoulder and said, T'Challa, I only said I can't sanction the X-Men's involvement. He turns and smiles at him and he says, I can't dissuade them from following their own hearts. And he kind of turns his back and doesn't watch. And, like, squad up, the X-Men come to T'Challa's aid. super good. I think it's a great example. Cyclops doesn't go.
Again.
Yeah, Cyclops doesn't go. Emma doesn't go because they're the figureheads of mutant kind of Utopia, this new government, and they can't go. So, but I mean, you got Colossus. Of course, Colossus, maybe the heart and soul of the X-Men.
Yeah.
The guy who, him and Nightcrawler are the ones you really want making decisions. Nightcrawler goes. Wolverine goes, of course. And all he wants to know is they want so you turn the page and T'Challa sees all of them and sees the X-Men helping the Dora Milaje. And Wolverine says, "We're on our way to rescue a queen, overthrow an evil wizard, and win back a country. Care to join us?" Good line. And then sadly, I mean, you know he wants to go, but at the bottom of the page, Cyclops just has to watch him fly away with Emma. It's this really great idea that like he no longer can just jump in the battle and do what he wants, which we're going to remember that. We're going to come back to it at the most recent stuff. Cyclops laments the fact that he is no longer the man of action. He is the decision maker. He is the politician, and he is not meant to be that. Once again, I didn't agree with it when it was happening, but now I see the value of it, how interesting it made him, because it didn't put him where he was comfortable. It put him where he was uncomfortable. It made him do things he never wanted to do. But going on that, that's all we're going to cover for Doom War. But if you haven't read it, please, God, read it. It is, maybe that's the book I can send to Corey, because I've been saying I'll send a book to Corey. Get it, because Corey's more DC. But Doom War is a solid story, so I'm gonna leave that here. We're gonna leave that.
We're gonna break there for a second.
We're gonna leave that cover there. For
how are you guys doing out there?
I'll drink some water real quick.
Yeah, Brad's gonna take a drink of water because I'm sure he's got a dry throat. How are you guys doing out there? I thought that I was gonna be speeding through this one, but I opted to do Cyclops with hair instead of cowl Cyclops. And I get lost in hair, so that's where we're at right now.
You know what? I haven't even looked at your picture this entire time. It looks so cool. I was just like talking and lost myself. But we're gonna leave the Fear itself up there for now. When we don't have anything else, because we just need a picture on the Brad cam, and that cover's so good. So we talked about Cyclops is getting into these decisions where he does not need to be. This is not the best for him. I guess I don't really need that. So, nope, that's after Schism. So, we'll get there in a second. So, Hayashi said, "Man, I'm gonna go to bed thinking about Cyclops. I do every night, man. I highly recommend it."
Justin,
I think about him day and night.
You're trying to risk you and Brad's friendship.
He makes fun of me for two things at work, and it's Bigfoot and Cyclops. I'll be like, "Hey, do you think this will happen?" He's like, "No, it's more likely Bigfoot's real," and just cuts me down. Oh my gosh. But there was a great dynamic. Once again, Wolverine was one of Cyclops' closest advisors during the entire Utopia thing. Comes a time, once again, same as Genosha. 16 million mutants on one island. A super sentinel comes out, kills all of them but 2 or 3. He said, "I'm doing great. Listening to Brad, watching some good stuff. Argue with the guy that doesn't want to pay up with my variant code." Oh, you need us to come strong arm somebody.
Yeah, you let us know, man.
Send
them a virus.
But Wolverine and Cyclops begin to not agree more and more. Cyclops starts making more and more questionable decisions. He reinstates X-Force. And Wolverine leads it, but he doesn't do it happily. He does it to protect the younger generation, that he wants to just, Xavier's dream was for mutants to not have to live in fear and not be soldiers. That was the point. The X-Men were the shield and the halberd for the rest of mutant kind. And Cyclops is kind of militarizing the entire mutant population. He is trying to save them from extinction, and everybody has to be ready to fight. It's a similar idea to Cable, who he grew up in a wasteland of mutant hatred, and everything is about survival to him. So there's a lot of disagreements and a lot of stuff Cyclops and Wolverine don't agree on, and it comes to a head when the new Hellfire Club, which is run by 4 shithead kids, I hate them, and they have this whole gala, and he sends Magneto, Colossus, Emma, and someone else, and it's basically a show of force. He's like, "Here's our big guns. were here to stay. They neutralize them and they send another Sentinel, another like super. I don't know if it's technically a super Sentinel, but they send this massive Sentinel to Utopia to wipe out the rest of mutant kind. And Cyclops has to figure out what to do. Do you abandon Utopia? Do you abandon this home you created that you have slowly begged, borrowed, and steal, scraped together to try to make a nation for your endangered people, or do you flee? And that's where this comes in, which is prelude to schism. So almost every event has a prelude. There's a prelude to Avengers versus X-Men. Avengers versus X-Men, it's coming. That's what it's called. It's coming.
I have read it.
There's War of the Realms prelude. Everything has a prelude. If you are a Cyclops fan and you have not read the prelude to Schism, you are doing yourself a disservice. It's so good. I am going to give a plot synopsis of it, discuss it very briefly, and I'm not going to spoil it because it's worth a read. It's 4 issues, and each issue is told from a different point of view. The first one is from Xavier's point of view, and it's basically a Cyclops circle jerk. It is a bunch of, it's 3 different people because Cyclops talks for himself in the 3rd issue, but it's Xavier in the 1st issue, Magneto in the 2nd, Wolverine on the 4th, and they're all talking about how great Cyclops is. They're talking about how he wasn't cool when Joss Whedon made him cool. Cyclops has always been cool. So you can let me know tomorrow because I don't want to pull over. Oh yeah, we could talk about Cyclops tomorrow. Justin's been reading Secret Wars, and we have been talking about comics a lot. Justin, of course, famously, probably, until I met Dwayne and maybe Mark, the biggest Doom fan I know. So it's like we got 3 big Doom fans in our group. I won't say one's bigger than the other. We do have a home video of Justin when he's like 3 wearing water boots and a blanket around his neck screaming, "I'm Dr. Doom." So Mark and Dwayne would have to do something pretty cool. But this prelude to Schism, Cyclops is making a decision. Once again, he's taking his time to make the decision. Something he should not be doing. But it lets them tell this narrative. And basically, these 4 issues take place over like a 30-minute period. 4 issues for this massively short period of time. And they tell a little backstory. Of course, Magneto talks about the Holocaust because it's like Batman not talking about his parents getting murdered in Crime Alley. Which, first of all, why the hell were you in a place called Crime Alley? But
what dad? They
talk about different aspects. What attracts them to Cyclops? What makes him not bite the lip attractive like all the ladies? Because his milkshake brings all the kids to Westchester, to the Xavier School for Gifted. Oh man, I want some more. Yeah, but it's really interesting because I love stories where you get different opinions. I mean, gosh, B-Movie Saga 2, when it hits, you're gonna know I like different opinions. I like seeing different points of view. And this one shows why Charles respects him as a father in like father-son relationship. Magneto respects him as a rival and as an equal, and how Wolverine is like his best friend. Something they got back into when Matt Rosenberg. I'm sorry. He wrote the annual where they brought Cyclops back, so I love him. I'm sorry I got your name wrong. Might be Rosenberg, but I think so because I think he's the gentleman who wrote Annihilation Scourge. But they're all going through this book, waiting for Cyclops to make his decision and telling them why they support him no matter what he does. Great stuff. So we've got a couple of passages here, from Prelude to Schism, chapter 4. Now I'm just gonna let's see. So this right here, remember in issue 1 of the X-Men. Everybody was getting served. Magneto, professor alumnus of Florida State University, and if you get my meaning, and he was whooping everybody. And then he said he's retelling the story of when he first met him, and he's talking to Cyclops. And I think you're pretty you're probably too young and too stupid to be scared. So I'm gonna kill you to teach you a lesson. Cyclops opens up that optic blast. Maybe even call it the Optic Rage from X-Men Legends. And he said, "Give it your best shot." And here's Magneto's monologue. "Give it your best shot. Hardly the comeback of the century. we should point out right now, Cyclops isn't known for his cleverness of his witty repartee. Like, he is not Spidey. He is just like, go X-Men. That's who he is.
X-Men.
So give it your best shot. Hardly the comeback of the century. But then again, you were hardly much more than a snot-nosed little punk, in my opinion. But that was until that 10 trillion volt generator eyes of yours almost knocked me out of my boots. I remember my opinion changed. I remember looking into those eyes. The truth is that this was my first glimpse into a very different future from the one I had intended. The first time I looked into those eyes of yours, I'm not ashamed to admit I was the first one to blink. Ooh. Boom! Yeah! Cyclops! Woo! So what is Magneto saying in summary? Cyclops was always cool. Cyclops was always cool. He's been cool since Stan the Man Lee and Jack King Kirby wrote him in issue 1. Great thing to show, like, Magneto came out swaggering, I'm the strongest mutant on the planet. Boom! What the hell? Like, he got a rude awakening, and after that, he respected Cyclops. Great stuff. So then we get to Wolverine's section, and this is when he's getting real close to his decision. And oh, hey, Hallifield, you're coming into a little late, man. But the thesis of today's story is that Cyclops has not been cool. Nobody made Cyclops cool in recent years. Cyclops has always been cool, so you can watch and catch up. But
don't worry, we'll be repeating it in just a second.
So in this, Cyclops decides, we stay. We're going to defend Utopia. And Wolverine says, about damn time. What took you so long? I had a few hundred lives and the fate of a nation to consider. Once again, he's not supposed to be making these decisions, but he made it. And I like Wolverine says, good answer. So then he's talking about more stuff. He says, look at us. They said it can never be possible. And so that's what we believed. They never believed mutant kind could be united together. They said we were a threat. They said we were dangerous, unpredictable evil, but we never believed that. They said we could never be united, that the mutants would destroy mutants until only the strongest survived. Cats and dogs living together. And at this point, Magneto and Xavier are staring each other down. It says, turns out we were all wrong after all. I never believed we'd see this day, and I was wrong. Magneto and Xavier are shaking hands and says, see, it's not always what you believe. You were the one who believed the most. You were the one who told us, who said it out loud. It was you, Scott. I've been to the end of the universe with you, been your rival, been your friend. We've seen some rough times and had a few good ones, but you were the one who brought us here. The question is, what's next? Boom, good stuff in there. And it really, once again, solidifies their relationship because they're both staring out the window together. They are the last line of defense. They're going to defend Utopia. And he says, we could die today, Logan. We've never faced anything like this. He says, yeah, well, Cyclops says, we could lose everything. Say it out loud. You think you can do this? And he looks at his friend and rival and says, sure, how about you? And that leads into Schism. So anybody who's a fan of Cyclops, I mean, Matt, Nick, clearly you like the Summers Family. Prelude to Schism is an exceptional Cyclops story. And it tells other stories as well. Tells like Wolverine, Xavier, and Magneto all have a story they tell of each other and how they came to be, but they do it in the frame of how Cyclops has influenced their lives. Super good stuff. Holy crap, I'm only like halfway through this.
What are we at? We're at
8:19.
An hour and 20 minutes.
So, oh my god, I was afraid I was going to burn through this in no time. So, if you know anything, Wolverine and Cyclops
no one's ever told Brad to just say, okay, just talk about Cyclops. So
this is better than going to church. Son, Cyclops is my church. So the schism happens, and the schism, of course, is Wolverine and Cyclops split. Wolverine goes back to the Xavier Mansion and restarts the school and lets the children be children. Because during the schism, they're losing to the Sentinel, and Cyclops wants to throw the children in the field. He wants to activate them as soldiers, and Wolverine doesn't want that. The point is, to Wolverine, the point is they were supposed to be fighting to protect the children, and in Cyclops' view, they were all fighting to protect themselves. So they disagree, get into this great fight and then eventually destroy the Sentinel while fighting. It's awesome. Not the best event, but sets up a lot of great stuff. And one of the Cubers, I want to say it's Andy Kubert, draws it, and it is baller.
He's probably one of the best X.
Hollowfield says, I like Scott. Wrote a family tree script called Summer's End. I'm a fan. If you tried to explain the Summers family tree, God bless you. I don't know. It is so convoluted and crazy. It's awesome. And Matt Nick says, as a collector and a fan of the Summers family X universe for over 30 years, you're doing a great job. Thank you. So we get into Schism, which there's not a ton I'm going to follow. Like, I'm not going to follow everything they do, but I like it because throughout it, Cyclops and Wolverine still keep a friendly rapport with each other, but it all comes down to Hope during the after the schisms where I'm pretty sure it's after Schism, or maybe Hope is born and Cable ends up taking her into the future and raising her. When they come back, eventually they think that Hope is going to be like the mutant messiah, and she's going to be the one who rejuvenates the mutant population, because since then only, I think, God, like a handful of mutants have been born since M-Day, when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants. So they Hope comes back, and then eventually they see the Phoenix Force coming. Which again, there's a bunch of great standalone stories. I'm kind of skimming over a huge part of this, but I got a lot of room to cover. And then we get into Avengers versus X-Men. And Avengers versus X-Men, like I've been telling Justin, Secret Wars is an opera. It is a beautiful piece of classic music. Avengers vs. X-Men is a metal song. Yeah, Avengers vs. X-Men is just like Cyclops fights Cap, and it's just a mile a minute, hero versus hero, some fun stuff they're playing with, and the most fun thing, a gift from my sister, my beloved sister Anne, the Phoenix 5. So
I love
they
that
do
cover.
They do a thing where they try to, of course, Iron Man tries to solve a problem and fucks it up like normal. So he splits the Phoenix into 5, and it goes to Cyclops, Emma, Magic, Namor, and Colossus. Thanks for that. Look at Phillips. God. But it splits into the Phoenix 5. And remember earlier I said everything's okay until Cap says it's not. So Captain America, the greatest fascist on the planet, Captain America, Steve Rogers, the Phoenix Force is headed towards Earth. Cyclops thinks that his daughter of some sort I think she's his adopted daughter, but he thinks Hope is going to host the Phoenix Force and be a physical rebirth of the mutant population. Captain America thinks that nobody can control it. It's a cosmic force nobody can ever handle, and it's a force of destruction. And so, like a true fascist, Captain America invades Utopia. He comes out and talks to Captain America. I love it because Cyclops meets him on the beach by himself, and Captain America's like, I'm here to just do peace talks. Give me the girl. And you're like, you're going to kidnap somebody from mine? And Cyclops blasts him. And then they reveal that there's been like a Doctor Strange illusion or something, and all the Avengers come down. There's this huge fight between the Avengers versus X-Men. One of the first of like 6 billion fights between the Avengers and X-Men. The name of that event was extremely properly named. And so the mutants go on the run. The mutants are trying to save Hope, and Captain America, still being a fascist, still says I was in the right invading. Gosh, I should have brought. You've got Avengers vs. X-Men.
Yeah, it's down there.
So yeah, pass me the Cavassier. I need to read something out of there because there's a really great moment at the end. So actually, as much as I'm making fun of Cap,
it's one of the omnibuses I do have. Dude, thanks to Brad.
Matt Nick, you're not wrong. Quicksilver, the what is that called? Called like something. Is it? It might be House of M. This symbol, but yeah, where he goes and Quicksilver goes and like exposes himself to the Terrigen mist and does all this crazy stuff. Really fun stuff. Let me see. I'm gonna find this thing, but the Avengers, of course, keep pushing Scott to the brink, and Captain America, his character can be summed up in like me going, "Hey Scoot, what's wrong? Are you mad?" And you're like, "No, I'm not." Scoot's like, "No, I'm not mad." I'm like, "Why are you mad?" And you're like, "I'm not mad." "Why are you mad, Scoot?" And Scoot's like, "I'm not mad." Like, "See, you're mad." And that's Captain America. He pushed Scott and the mutants, claiming he was doing it for the right, but he went about it the completely wrong way. He has the smartest minds on the planet. He could have helped find a way to help Hope with the thing. Granted, in the end, they both failed by not taking Hope's opinion into consideration. But there is a so they eventually split it, and the Phoenix Five kind of start reshaping the world, and the X-Men are doing good work. Like, they're feeding the hungry, and wow, they did this really shitty in this. This in the original comics is a page turn, and it's not in this, and we're gonna read it in a second. But the Phoenix Five start solving world hunger and energy issues, and Captain America's like, they're gonna go bad. I know they're gonna go bad, so I'm gonna poke them until they go bad, which is exactly what Captain Fascist America does. He pokes Cyclops, invades his nation again. So they end up finding out so there's a great thing where Namor invades Wakanda, and it takes the combined efforts of all the heroes of the world to stop him. But they find out that when they take one of the Phoenix Five down, the power goes to the other ones. So it ends up Emma and Scott are the last ones with the Phoenix Force, and so they are just absurdly powerful.
You didn't bring your Emma Frost commission, did you?
Me? No,
I did not. That thing's awesome.
I'm really scared traveling with original art. When I brought that Scarlet Spider piece over here, like, if I got in a wreck, I was going to throw myself in front of it. But in it, Emma and Scott are doing what they want. They're kind of, because they end up defeating Namor first, then Colossus and Magic, and so all the power goes to Cyclops and Emma, and the Phoenix Force at that point starts corrupting them because they're only 2 people instead of 5. So Captain America has this great thing, because they are just getting
Captain Fascist
America. So he has this. If Captain America is good at one thing, it's monologuing. So here we go. So he says, he's out in the middle of a desert. You can't see anything around him. It's just like Utah, probably. There's a couple of Avengers behind him, a Quinjet. Some people are kind of around him. He says, "I'm sorry to come to you like this. You know I respect you and your space, and I would never come to you unless I was at the end of my rope, and I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know if you know, we've been at war with the X-Men over... No, we've been at war with Scott Summers." Once again, placing all the blame on with Cyclops. He has a cosmic power. You see, he's a political, like, flim-flam is what he's doing. He's making sure to demonize Scott instead of saying, "Hey, I invaded a nation." But okay, sorry, let's get the monologue. He has a cosmic power called the Phoenix Force, and we just cannot win the fight in front of us. We can't win it. Everything keeps escalating. I'm worried about what's going to happen next. I'm worried that the power they are holding is more than they can handle. In fact, I know it is. We all do. So once again, he's saying he knows it's going to go bad before it goes bad, and he's going to keep poking it until it goes bad. He says, "Everyone seems to know it but Scott Summers. What happens when they aren't able to handle it any longer?" Hey, back down. What happens when they aren't able to handle it any longer? So I need more than I have. I need more firepower. So I'm coming to everyone. I'm coming to you. I don't know what you feel about what's been going on with the X-Men, but I was hoping with our history together, I was hoping you would join us. I know you only fight a fight worth fighting. I'm telling you, this is one of those fights. If we lose this, we lose everything. Will you help us, please? And they screwed it up in this. They put it on the same page, but you turn the page, and there's just this beautiful burst, and it says, "Yes, Hulk will smash for you." And it's just this great thing where, like, things have gone so bad. They've got the strongest there is. They had to pull him in. So not only great turn, like I said, in the original, this is on this side, and then you turn the page and see the Hulk. great page turn. Really screwed that up, they did. In the collected edition. But they fight and they take out Emma. And then Scott turns into the Dark Phoenix, and then the whole thing, they eventually fight Scott. He kills Xavier. They come and they get everybody together and they all go fight Scott. They beat him, and in it, there's even a part where Scott has let me see if I can find it. I wish I had thought about this before and pulled this off your shelf, but Scott is begging them to stop him, to kill him, because he doesn't want to be a force of destruction anymore. See, I'll find it here. He wants to be stopped because he knows that's not who he is. And I'm pretty sure it's Wolverine that he begs. He says, "Please kill me before," and he cuts back and he turns evil again. So once again, pushed to the edge, he ends up being evil because Captain America makes him evil. But when he loses the Phoenix, it goes into Hope. And Hope is freaking out, about to lose control of it. And the Scarlet Witch joins forces with her, casts some magic, and says, "No more Phoenix." They kill the Phoenix. Its power disperses and rejuvenates all of the mutants. It starts birthing new mutants, repowers other mutants who were depowered before, and they start popping up all over the globe. And funny enough, whoop-de-doo, that's what Cyclops said was going to happen. So guess who was wrong? Captain America, the
fascist America.
And he pushed. I should have brought Consequences. That was a good story because Cyclops at the end comes out, throws up the X, knows he was right. And it's great because throughout the next series, like Quentin Quire will wear a Cyclops' right shirt every once in a while.
Yeah.
Super cool. But the throw right basics of that, Utopia is gone at that point. All the mutants who were left over go to kind of disperse or go to his school. But then we get into Bendis's run of Uncanny. And so we talked about earlier making Scott the leader of mutant kind, put him in an uncomfortable position, put him in a hard position. And with Bendis's run of Uncanny, Cyclops starts his own school. I love it because he calls it the Xavier Institute, just to slap Logan in the face, even though he killed him. But in it, it's about Cyclops. They kind of turn him in Wolverine into the new Magneto and Xavier. But Cyclops is learning. He's trying to atone for his sins and kind of more anti-hero than villain. Really interesting stuff. They introduce a lot of really interesting characters in that. I love the Racer X Cyclops. Who gave me a sweet statue of it. Really cool stuff. And in it, throughout, Cyclops is learning his mistakes. He's seen the error of his ways. In fact, there's some cool stuff where Hank McCoy, the current Hank McCoy Beast, brings the original X-Men, the first class, into the future.
All new X-Men, right?
Yeah, all new X-Men. Yeah, and brings him. Bendis wrote that as well. Super good. Young Cyclops in it. And they're having to see like what happened, but he was hoping that Cyclops seeing his younger self would remind him who he was. And there's the original Sin tie-in for his Uncanny run is absolutely fantastic. It's the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. Fantastic story if you ever read it. Shows that how like makes Eva Bell really cool. She's like the time bubble time traveler that he found. They get into like Charles having to compromise his dream by doing stuff he wasn't supposed to. But the good thing, Bendis ended on this issue 600 of Uncanny. And in it, they're going through a lot of stuff. Like there's the trial of Beast going on. At a certain point, Cyclops has seen that he screwed up, and he goes back to oh my gosh, is he something? Yeah, we're doing some stuff here. He goes, he takes all of his students, closes his school, which was really just like this weird, creepy compound, and leaves. And they're all trying to figure out where he's going. And later in this issue, they get a beep and they find out Cyclops is on Capitol Hill giving a speech. And it's very, very Martin Luther King, you know, because of course, you think about it, Stan created Magneto and Xavier to be Malcolm X, Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And whew, so they all show up there. They teleport everybody from the Jean Grey Institute, and they turn around and they're all around the reflecting pool. Chris Bachalo doing the art, killer art, absolutely wonderful. And here comes Cyclops doing what he doesn't normally do, give good speeches. He says, now the X-Men have arrived, our greatest educators and champions, humans and mutants all over the world. I have gathered all of us here, every single mutant on planet Earth, all of us, so we could join in together in revolution. My name is Scott Summers, and not long ago in the press, in a fit of frustration, I called for Mutant Revolution. Revolution. I know that's a loaded word, and it can mean many things to many people. Some see it as heroic. Some see it as terrifying. Some equate it to terrorism. And I admit to myself, I did not know exactly what it meant when I called for it. And only that something revolutionary had to happen. Well, this is it. This is the Mutant Revolution. Here we are, all of us, every single one of us, every mutant on the world on the steps of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., in the heart of everything democratic and good. And you hear that? Do you see that? Nothing. Nothing is happening. The human's worst nightmare about mutants is that we would unite and attack, unite and conquer, unite and come after them. Well, here we are, united, and isn't it beautiful? Oh! And he just, like, brings it in, and then, where is it? So he finishes his speech, and you get a little word bubble coming off. It says, Summers, what are you doing? And it's Magneto coming out of the sky. And he said, Magneto, Eric, we're demonstrating once and for all what we are. And I really didn't want to do it without you. Would you join us in showing to the world that they have nothing to fear from us? And he said, you finally lost your mind, Scott, but Charles Xavier would have loved it. Boom! Brings it home. Brings it home to where Scott Summers had lost his way. He had been taken from being the field commander and at best the leader of the X-Men and a teacher to where he was being forced to be the decision maker for an entire people, and he wasn't meant for that. And he lost his way so bad that he was militarizing children, just like his mentor. He was repeating the mistakes of the past, but in the end, he remembered the dream. He remembered the dream that Charles Xavier created and did that. Instead of marching out and attacking a helicarrier like he did in the early issues, he walked out and said, here we are, we're peaceful. We're not going to hurt you. Gave a demonstration. Beautiful Scott Summers. Went back to Nick Fury saying he doesn't have a killer instinct. He's more about protecting his people. He's supposed to be an educator. Great stuff. Gosh, Brian Michael Bendis is the bomb. Like, and then true to fashion, that bubble is just daisy chained throughout the page. I love Bendis's writing style. So I'm pretty sure during that, I have a theory that's going to be controversial.
You mean besides Captain America the Fascist?
Oh, Captain Fascist America. So, other than Cyclops is
hey,
always
Holly,
cool.
what's up?
I'm not sure that Cyclops should have a solo series. I think he's better in a team book. I think there's a lot of characters like that do better as a team book. That being said, Greg Rucka wrote a solo Cyclops series with the young Cyclops going into space and having like a father-son adventure with his dad Corsair and the Starjammers. And it was a really fun series. It didn't redefine the genre, I don't think. I haven't reread it in a while, but I remember reading it and being very happy with it. I like Cyclops. I like seeing the young one out and he's getting to, instead of them like keep rehashing the he has to be here and see his older self become a terrorist. It was, hey, let him go do something he never had, which was have a relationship with his father when he was young. Really fun, swashbuckling space adventures, a little teen love in there. And then it ended with Black Mirror, which was a really fun, like, X-Men space event, because other than the Fantastic Four, the X-Men were Marvel's original cosmic team. They always went to space. Always.
Love space.
So let me take a sip here. Because we're about to read some stuff. Justin's going to like this. So, if you remember Secret Wars...
What are you unwrapping back?
I'm just pulling it out. I'm pulling a comic out of a preserver.
I was like, you guys, he's breaking out stuff he's never seen
I gotta
before.
eat a Snickers real quick. No, I have comic preservers for my favorite comics. Yeah, where's Aaron today? He must be sleepy. So if you guys have never read Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, boom. Okay, so that's 2 of the 3 trio. We're on to Jonathan Hickman.
Should have had Mark come over.
No, he can't. He would talk in the middle of me, and I gotta have the stage right now. We got 19 minutes, and I got a lot of comics to get through.
All right, I'm close to wrapping too.
We don't have a lot to get through, but
you guys still doing good out there? Y'all hanging in there?
Yeah, I agree with you. Matt Nick says I find depending on the writing, he can be presented as dry. That's the same way with Iron Man. Feels good, but good with groups. And yeah, he can be written solo fine, but I think that Cyclops he's a team guy. I mean, why would you not write him as a team? X-Men solo books in general are a little shaky. Gambit's had a couple of them, and like you think that Gambit, like after Wolverine, he is so loved, but his solo series always tank. But all right, Secret Wars. If you don't know, holy crap. So huge Avengers and the New Avengers run by Hickman ends with the Marvel universe. All the multiverse is collapsing. The last 2 universes are the 616, the main universe, the universe we all grew up knowing and loving, and the Ultimate Universe. Well, should have been Brett's PowerPoint on the topic. I didn't need any more time to prep for this because I would have had too much to say. So, in the opening of this book, it says the multiverse is dying. Only 2 universes remain. Today, Earths collide, and in it, if you destroy Earth, because the incursions happen, and when the 2 Earths collide, it destroys the universe. But if you destroy one of them, only the other universe they'll miss each other. But in it, the Ultimate Universe and the 616 go to war, and it's awesome.
Is this the Battle World stuff?
No. This is before. This is before okay. Battle World. It leads into the next issue's Battle World. But they get into it, and there is just mayhem. Like, I'll show you a couple of pages. It's just like all-out war. If you know about the Ultimate Universe, they're like meta-humans. Their superheroes are nowhere near as like densely packed. Like the 616 is flooded with humans, or with superhumans, and this issue is exceptional. It is a master's guide on how to write a first issue of an event, and in it, so much is happening, and I'm going to go over 2 things because I love it. They're in the middle of fighting, and they say Captain America, who is Sam Wilson at this point, says, "Iceman, look, Sentinels, are they friend or foe?" Complicated question, Cap. They're from Nation X, so he established that after his speech. There's no telling what Cyclops has planned. It says, the Sentinel says, "Landfall, Professor Summers, package intact. Your orders? Keep everybody away for as long as you can. I need just a little more time." And they kind of disappear. They don't talk about that for a little more. There's some cool X-Men moments because like Colossus is fastball specialing people. His specialty, of course.
That's his mutant power.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. But we're gonna do a real quick deviation because I've said it before. I'm not much of a Punisher fan. I don't find his comics too interesting. I don't find the character too interesting. I grew up in a time where Punisher ran the mob and had a ponytail and shot beam weapons. He was not cool.
Not at all.
But in this, the heroes are all fighting. Some of the villains come out and help fight too. But Wilson Fisk sends out a huge chain email to everybody. And it says, "Like all of you, I've dreamed of a glorious end. Me standing over the vanquished as the world looked up in envy. But it seems time that fickle mistress has robbed us all of such opportunity. So I say this, if the world is truly ending, let's end it thusly, with drink and joy at the sight of our enemy's greatest failure. please join me for a raucous celebration at the place where we met that time for that thing, the bar with no name. I'm buying Wilson Fisk. And so all these heroes, or all these villains are joined in the bar with no name. And you just see at the end of his thing, there's like Fisk and Bullseye and the Absorbing Man. And you hear a little, there's a little word bubble coming off. And I'm going to put it up here. Let's see. So it's right here. And it's Punisher walking in. He says, "Gentlemen, they say that when you die, you can't take it with you," which begs the question. And he's cocking his gun and it says, "Exactly what am I going to do with all of these bullets?" And they never show what happens, but you can only assume that Frank Castle just laid waste to an entire bar of villains. Great Punisher moment. I think that feels like a Bendis moment to me. But we get back to Cyclops. So we come in, he's standing on top of this. He's got a sentinel helping guard the city, protect the city, while the other sentinel, he's riding on the shoulder of like a BA, because this is a cool Cyclops moment. But of course, he's always been cool.
He's always been cool.
So this says, "Alert, Professor. There's an 89% chance that our defense perimeter will breach by hostiles in the next minute." And he says, "A minute will be more than enough, for the Phoenix eggs is ready to hatch." And you see the thing's opening and it's got the Phoenix inside. And he said, "There you are, my old friend. Remember me? Remember how this feels?" And he turns around, turns to the Phoenix, says, "It's love." And
what a
just
scene.
Annihilates the Ultimate Universe. He comes out and is just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like Jackie Chan jumping into the room carrying a ladder. He is just whooping everybody. Oh, I had goosebumps when I saw that. I have goosebumps now. It is a great moment because he is just destroying everybody to protect him, protect what he wants. And then he has, he's destroying the entire like fleet of ships from the Ultimate Universe, taking out their heroes. And he says, "Listen to me, you can't kill an idea. It always comes back, resurrected or reborn into a different form." And then boom, he's teleported into one of the rafts. So in this battle, nobody wins. The universes both collide and are both destroyed. But about 10 people on either side of that universe survive. And when they survive, they end up on Battle World, where Doom has saved pieces of the universes from the multiverse and hobbled together into this gigantic planet. Eventually, their two life rafts, they have their spaceships that help them survive the collapse of the multiverse, come free, and they meet up, and Doom finds them. Doom finds them and says, "Hey, welcome to Battle World. You guys are all welcome here, but you have to bend the knee." And everybody's like, and Thanos is like, "Dog, my knees don't bend. I am like a wrestling figure from the 1990s. The no joints bend. The WCW toys, no joints bend." Thanos is like, "I'm not doing it." And everybody's kind of talking big, and Cyclops just boom attacks God Emperor Doom with the Phoenix. Great moment because he's like, "I am an idea. You can't kill me. Blah blah blah." And Doom walks up to him and breaks his neck. So, as a Cyclops fan, I hate that Cyclops died. Of course, I hate that Cyclops died. But what it did is it showed that Cyclops was fighting an entire universe by himself. And God Emperor Doom killed him with a snap of the wrist. That was a great indication of just how strong he was. So Hickman, great job making you feel it. Speaking of Jonathan Hickman, he took over X-Men a couple of years back. And if you hadn't read House of X Powers of 10, was it Brad 2021 Dog My Knees Don't Bend? But yeah, that scene when he takes the Phoenix is so good. So Jonathan Hickman took over the X-Men. He was apparently supposed to do something at DC, and they kept kind of like pushing it back, like, "Oh, we'll do it in a minute. Oh, we'll do it in a minute. Oh, we'll do it in a minute." And he was like, "No, I want to do it now." And they wouldn't let him. So Marvel said, "Hey, come back, do what you want." He said, "I want the X-Men." "What do you want?" And he said, "Cancel every book. I'm taking over." Oh. They canceled across the field, and he restarted. I cannot get into House of X and Powers of 10 right now, but his mainline book deals a lot with the Summer family. Really good stuff. And
Speaking of that, I'm done.
Oh God! Before I'm done talking,
That's okay. I'll do this. I'll sketch something else. You keep talking.
there has been no dead air.
But here's Cyclops, who has always been cool.
Oh my gosh. Matt, that one got lost in the mail. Man, that is great. You haven't drawn Cyclops in a long, long time. Yeah. Good, strong chin, good visor, a resolve of look in his eyes, classic flowing hair. I like that bottom lip. God, he's sexy.
I decided to go ahead with the kind of bow tie visor too. It looks rad.
Yeah, it does look rad, dude. Walt Simonson would be proud.
All right, here we go, guys. I'm about to do a quick sketch while Brad's still talking. It's gonna be Cyclops.
Yeah, so Hickman.
Matt also expect payment right now.
Gosh, how do you have House of X powers of 10? So I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna find it and read it. So there's a great in the first House of X. There's a great scene where the Fantastic Four are chasing Sabretooth, and they come out, and Cyclops meets them.
There it is, Hayashi. You see Hayashi?
Hayashi has, yep, Cyclops has always been cool. And he might never have been cooler than right now. Scoot knocked that out of the park. And in House of X...
Clearly, Brad needs to be on a Cyclops book.
You know what? I'd be scared to be on a Cyclops book. Like, I don't know if I'm worthy, but in House of X, he comes out and meets Reed Richards, shakes his hand, meets him as an equal, congratulates Ben Grimm on getting married, and then he talks to them and says, hey, you know what? He resolves it. He does the meat puppets. He decides who needs action when you got words. And he's like, don't worry, we'll work it out. You will figure it out later. You guys be safe. Thanks for protecting the city. So later, when you find out they established the government of Krakoa, the new nation. Once again, mutants all gathering on an island. At first, you don't succeed. I don't know. Shame on me. I should fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Get it together. Like, it's crazy. But they get on this island and they form a group called the Quiet Council, which is their government. On it are a bunch of great people, like Apocalypse is on it, his son, gosh, I can't think of his son's name right now. It's another name for Apocalypse. But Emma's on it, Sebastian Shaw's on it, Sinister's on it, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Storm, Magneto, Xavier. Lots of people are on it. Noticeably missing is Cyclops. And it makes sense because Cyclops is not meant to be a leader. He now understands he's not meant to be a governing body. So later when you find out, they have what they call the 4 great captains. And I know one of them's magic and one of them's Cyclops. Sadly, I don't remember the other two. But Cyclops, the thing is when they're in the field, the captains have reign. It doesn't matter who's in the field. If one of the Quiet Council's in the field, they're like governing power does not matter. And if there's more than one captain in the field, Cyclops is the captain commander, which means in the field during a mission, Cyclops' word is law. And they show it great in one where they're attacking this base that's like creating like they're doing something. They're creating like superhumans to fight mutants. And Magneto's there, and Magneto's kind of going like crazy, like just kind of destroying stuff. And Cyclops is like, hey, tone it down and go that way. And he's like, yes, sir. You got it. Cyclops, once again, goes back to his Utopia line, his Utopia slogan, fall in line. And Magneto falls in line because I think Hickman understands Cyclops the same way I do. Cyclops is meant to be the decision maker in a snap moment. And so every time they go to war, Cyclops is in the lead, and it is exceptional how he does it. And then he gets into stuff like trying to reunite with his family. He hangs out with Cable more and Rachel more. Really great stuff. They get to whatchamacallit, the Ten of Swords, and there's this whole, once again, too deep to get into right now, but there's this whole inter-universal dimensional tournament going on, and they're forbidden to interfere. And Cyclops is like, look, my son's in this. Cable is involved in this. I'm going to save him. And the Quiet Council says, you can't save him. You can't interfere. And Cyclops says, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway because helping people is what I was trained to do. We are the X-Men. And it's really interesting because throughout the entire run of Hickman's X-Men in the House of X Powers of 10, they never refer to themselves as X-Men. They call themselves mutants or Krakoans. And they get into where Cyclops says, we were X-Men. We were meant to save people. And when Xavier says, if we tell you explicitly not to do it, what would you say? And he said, who cares? I'm going to do it anyway. And he assembles a team and goes, and when he's leaving, Xavier smiles because he's happy to see that his student has retained the lessons. He took the lessons that he learned from Charles when he was young and still believes in them, still believes in the dream that Xavier has kind of given up on in this Hickman arc. And as the Quiet Council, Xavier cannot do anything about it, but he knows he made someone who can carry his dream on. He has hope in someone that if he's gone, they can carry on. And it leads to him creating the X-Men, and there's this whole new series going on by Jerry Duggan that's really good right now. But I thought that was great. We're getting back to where, man, maybe Hickman read Bendis' dossier about how he's the quick decision maker. He's the team guy. And he's really leaned into it. And it's made for great storytelling and great, they have a whole House of X Powers 10 issue where he leads a strike team into space to stop these people from bringing Nimrod online, which Nimrod, if you know anything, is a mutant killing machine. Really big bad for the X-Men, and it is a great issue. There's a speech from Nightcrawler in there that Mark Winchester knows if I die before him, he has to read it. But it's really this great. I think Hickman does a good job of finding characters, honing in on what makes them them, and then amplifying it, spotlighting it, and he did an exceptional job. And so, as we've learned, Cyclops has been cool from here to there. And Cyclops is still cool to this day. He has been cool, and he will always be cool. That being said, we're going to go back. So I say Cyclops should not have solo series. And a good example of that is this right here. It's the X-Men, The Search for Cyclops. After Apocalypse came back one of the many times, Cyclops killed him, died in the process. But Cyclops wasn't really dead. He's wandering around. 4 issues, not great. But I am a Cyclops fan, so I own that damn series. And I would always own that series. And because I said we were going to mention all 3 of the Trinity for me, Christos Gage wrote 2 series. One was called Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and one was called X-Men and Spider-Man. And this is the book right here. So what he does is just 4 issues, and he tells an issue like every decade or so. Excuse me, starting with the first time the X-Men and Spider-Man met. And he tells a story with Craven and Sinister, and weaves this really fun story throughout the generations. Fun stuff. Gage writes an incredibly great story that doesn't affect anything. We've mentioned before that we define retconning here as addition through subtraction. And this is not retconning because he tells a story that takes place during these stories. None of this is current, but he does nothing but add. He subtracts nothing. So the main thing I'll point out, not a ton of stuff to discuss. It's just a fun story. Didn't shake it up quite like Hickman did. But if we look at this cover right here, you'll notice that Spider-Man, so of course he meets Spider-Man 4 times in this series. And this Spider-Man right here, costume looks a little different. Old boy Ben Reilly. We all know, if there's one thing I like almost as much as Cyclops,
This is
clones. It's clones. And so it's really cool that he's in here. And then, of course, you got Jim Lee's Cyclops, and just a good, solid, fun story. If you want to read something that kind of gives you sort of in the vein of Marvel's, that retells the Marvel history through a different lens, this retells these time periods almost like Spider-Man Life Story, but in the main continuity. Super fun. If you're ever looking for a good, fun, just a good, quick read, Gage provides. And I guess in summary, we have learned today that Joss Whedon did not make Cyclops cool. Cyclops has always been cool. And thank you all for coming.
Say it with us again.
Cyclops has always been cool. And so thank you for listening to my lecture today. I did not realize I was going to be talking for 2 hours about it. I thought we would do it and then kind of let the chat carry us the rest of the way. But I really enjoyed it. I love Cyclops. I've got books and shit all over the place. I've always thought he's just been such a fun, engaging character. I like the leader. I never can completely pin down why he's my favorite, but he has always been and will always be my favorite. And so the darkest period for me, so Hayashi, I've thought about doing almost like a video series on here called Secrets of the Trades. I've talked about it, where I want to just talk about comic series or specific characters. Like, hey, we're going to track the history of Spider-Girl, or we're going to track the history of War Machine or something, you know, of there was a time in Marvel. So my favorite characters, my top 5 favorite characters are Cyclops, Scott Summers, James Rhodes, Rhodey, Namor, Kane Parker, and Hank Pym. There was a time in like 2015 to like 17 where all of them were dead. It was
a dark time.
Yeah, so Kane Parker was supposed to have died during Spider-Verse, but they kind of alluded he was alive. Namor had been killed by the Squadron Supreme. He came back like 7 issues later, so that was okay.
I'm doing it. I'm getting the ink out.
Thanos had killed Rhodey. So during Civil War II, or the prelude to Civil War II, Hank Pym had fused with Ultron and was kind of lost. And Cyclops had died during the death of X-Line. So, real dark time for me. But eventually they came back. Thank goodness. That's why they did I guess I should have brought Uncanny X-Men Annual number 1, 2, I think it's 2018. Cyclops came back and it was a really fun story how he did it, and really fun how he, it was really the course correction of him being back on. He had the choice to go save all the mutants or save the guy who helped save his life, and he saved the guy who saved his life, proving that he was no longer just for the X-Men. He was supposed to defend everyone. Really good story. Really fun story. Thought I was done. I was not. I left quite a few books and quite a few singles and quite a few trades at home. But I hope you guys enjoyed that history of Cyclops from 1963 to 2021. Very quick. I would love to do even more in depth, but I quite enjoy Cyclops.
I'll tell you, I feel like I know a little bit about Cyclops, but seriously, hearing all that was awesome. Like, super cool. Because I've always known you were such a big fan of him, but I never really have had you explain why.
Yeah, so, and that's, I think that's what's fun. Justin said he wanted a jumping off point for Cyclops, and now I'm trying to figure it out. What would be the best point? I really think I might bring you that first volume of Uncanny that starting with Giant Size X-Men number 1. I think that would be a good spot for you to start. Now I'm going to answer some text real quick, like a bunch of people DMing me saying I look like him and I'm really proud and I should play Cyclops in the movie. You guys are nice. No one's sending though.
Oh. I was like, damn, for real?
Yeah, no. Mostly people, if Brett had super speed, it would be in comparison to a snail. And so yeah, I thought sadly, I remembered I was gonna wear my X-Men pajamas today that have Cyclops on them, but they kind of fell apart, and so I couldn't wear them. So I wore my Psych shirt today. I've got two of them. I wear them for special occasions, like first dates, and when I want, to impress a girl. That's I was saying those pictures I took. I took quite a few pictures and let Scoot choose which ones he wanted, but I was like, this feels like one of those. Tell me you're single without telling me you're single, and you know what? If I have to choose between a girl and Scott Summers,
He's gonna bite that bottom lip.
Bottom lip, and the All American boy's gonna win every time.
I know we're a little over now because I jumped.
Oh, Philip over here burning me for no reason.
Philip ain't no reason.
He said if Brett had super speed, it'd be in comparison to a snail. Like, what you talking about, bro? Get out of here! We'll break your other wrist.
By running past him. This would be like a con. Except I probably wouldn't. I hadn't done it in a while. It felt good. Plus, is Corey still watching? Hard out, bro.
Yeah. Corey is indeed still in the chat, or he was just a second ago.
Brush pen out, pulling some mighty fine lines.
Sweet nectar. My ass have had pictures and I sent 42 of them. This Scoot sent me a scan of this one so I can fix it. I feel like I need another glass of chocolate milk after talking that long. I'm gonna be hoarse tomorrow.
Always feel like a glass of chocolate.
That's my secret, Captain. Always need chocolate milk.
One of those sketches where I'm just kind of, there's barely any kind of layout for it. Feeling it?
Oh, Hayashi sent me a picture. I'm kind of scared. Actually, after that first one.
You've started something, man.
Hayashi is quicker on a stream, on a meme than I am. I'm about to post.
Hayashi.
I'm about to post that thing in my story. Gotta tag him. Ooh, spelled masterpiece wrong. Whoopsies. That thing, I've never been that cool. Never been Cyclops cool. Because he's always been. I'm tripping out over that picture. What the hell? Oh. Scott, Hank, and Gene walk into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, you can't bring that beast in here." Scott, as angry as he can, replies, "She's not that bad." I've always, man, I wasn't a fan of Jean Grey until real recently. X-Men Red actually made me like her a lot. The Resurrection, the Phoenix Resurrection arc was pretty darn fun too. But I really like her in Hickman's X-Men now. But I always like Scott and Jean. I always felt like Emma, I always like Scott and Emma. I felt like the White Queen like boosted him more, made him more of who he could have been, and respected him for that. And it's like him and Jean always had kind of like a child romance. But
It was like a teenage.
yeah. So many slips of paper later and lots of stuff, and almost time to move on. Right. Been a fan of a character that gets renewed every. Philip, I have no notes on this. I made I looked through books and had little slips of paper, and that's it. Everything else I just kind of winged it and made it up, or just remembered it out of my brain on the spot. I did say, like, talking about comic opinions, like how everybody's got an opinion on everything, and how you're gonna offend somebody with your opinion once. On the day they did the revival, the Uncanny Annual #1, when they brought Cyclops back to life, I posted it, and I posted it in a picture of me with my shirt on, with my pajamas on, with my I forgot to wear my Cyclops socks. I have socks with Cyclops on it. I'll post it later. Cyclops. Sock summer. But hey Gabe, if you just joined, you missed my 2-hour presentation on why Cyclops is a cool character and has always been cool. I've got to say,
says 2 hours. It literally was 2 hours.
It was 2 hours long, guy. Like, we had the shortest intro ever. We're just like, all right, let's start drawing. Scoot finished drawing before I finished talking.
Yeah.
Scoot finished drawing. I'm like, oh, I'm only on X-Men #10. Gotta hurry up.
He stopped. He wasn't done yet, so I started this.
But the I posted the X-Men Annual #1, super cool cover. If you've never seen it, it's got Cyclops at the top, and all the different versions of Cyclops are like clinging to him, almost like a zombie horde.
It's really cool,
and it's all of the different ones. My only sad one is the part I'm sad about is the Simonson Cyclops is kind of off screen, so you don't see it. But Racer X is on there, so I really like that. But I posted it up, and a guy's like, I'm just glad they're going back to Jim Lee's costume soon. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Everybody's doing 90s nostalgia now. It was never my favorite. My favorite's, this one and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, Jim Lee's costume is the only one they should ever use as the best. And I was just trying to get the guy like, hey, that's cool. That's your opinion. Like what you like and don't be a dick, as the supple boys say. And I was like, no, I mean, that's cool. I've just always been more of a fan of his blue and yellow suit or his white and blue suit. And he's like, no. They really only need to do him. So eventually I just send him a picture of the professor from Waterboy, like, well, Mama's wrong again. Yeah, like, I just don't know why he was so upset at that.
You gotta be a dick, I mean.
Yeah. Scoot drawing RoboCop.
Alright, we'll call it there on that one.
Cool.
You can have this one if you.
Sweet. Hell yeah, I haven't had a Cyclops since the one you showed on your How I've Gotten Better at Art piece.
Brad deserves a Cyclops after that.
Like, no, raffle it.
Yeah.
Rack 'em. I was Phil talking about notes. I had that classic response where I was like looking at all these books and I was like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Here we go. A quick Phoenix Force Cyclops.
Let's point out that I talked about Cyclops so long. Scoot had time to do 2 pieces of art.
Yeah.
Half the times he's like, oh, I'll finish this up later, guys.
Here's the first one. So, yeah, I dig that Phoenix Force look. It's pretty freaking cool. All right.
So, anything else, guys?
Got the Brad cam
Yeah.
there. Hold on.
If you liked what you heard, throw me some love in the chat. We'll
You guys give Brad the metaphorical
bite the lip.
bite the lip, and
Cyclops may be responsible for me always having short hair, man. I gotta say.
give him the metaphorical claps in the chat, because
Nice.
that was, I gotta say, that was impressive. It was pretty darn impressive.
It was like before we started, I was like, man, I hope I have enough to talk about. But hey, we can always just talk about whatever. I had a few stories. Oh my god, I almost forgot. Okay, so I gotta tell a story.
Story
So
time.
back in ye old 90s, our brother Brian, who's not in the chat tonight, went to some theme park, probably Six Flags or something. This was early 90s, so you gotta think he went on a 3D ride. They gave him a pair of glasses. And these are not like 3D glasses you wear today, where they're like basically you can look through them and they just look like normal glasses until you look at a theater screen. They weren't 3D glasses with the red and blue. I forget what that's called. They were like this weird, almost like multiple prisms inside of a single lens type 3D. So when he comes back, he shows me, and I'm like, dude, those are cool. Those look like Cyclops visors. He's like, I know. That's why I brought them back, so you could wear them when we play X-Men. So, God, like 5-6-year-old Brad puts these things on, and I can't see a damn thing out of them, but I don't care because I'm Cyclops. And then I look up, like we're playing outside, and I look up at the sun.
Yeah.
With these prism-esque 3D glasses, and I can't believe I can see to this day. It seared my eyes. If you've ever looked at like a light and it's too bright and you can see the after image for hours, I basically couldn't see. My eyes immediately started streaming water out of them. Oh my god, it was the worst pain. Like my eyes burned for hours. I couldn't see without seeing a flash of after image. I thought I was going to be blind. And we never used those to play Cyclops again. We just imagined.
Yeah.
I know I didn't have straws on my hand to be Wolverine. I couldn't.
That's what I did.
Cyclops, I was just, all I had brought to the table was being roguishly handsome and just hoped it passed.
It worked.
I walk into a room, they're like, he's handsome. He must be Cyclops. And
and all these people started biting their bottom lip.
Mm-hmm.
There's a meme now. My favorite X-Men, by the way, is Nightcrawler. But I couldn't teleport, so I just was Wolverine and I taped straws to my hand.
He is, yeah. Him and
we were
he
awesome.
could have been Angel and jumped off the roof.
Could have. All right.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Like,
it won't be
seriously,
as detailed as that normally. We'll probably be back to shooting the breeze next time.
Seriously, that was really cool. Like I was taking in the history. Super cool. And can tell it's time to go because I got a dog cleaning her butt here.
How'd they get in here? We gotta get a real baby gate.
They jumped the barrier, mate. All right. Any final thoughts, Bradley, on Cyclops?
No. I need to get home and sleep.
Yeah, work tomorrow. Yeah, so I forgot about that. So, thanks for everybody for coming and hanging out and listening to Brad's dissertation on Cyclops. There's more where that came from. So if you guys want Cyclops Part 2, just let us know. Just let us know. Matt, I expect payment like now. So with that, there will not be a stream next week. Actually, well, the rest of this week there will not be one. I'm going on vacation starting Friday. And then we'll be back on the 8th, I think, on the following Friday. So maybe we'll do one Saturday or Sunday that week because I'll still be on vacation. So but we'll be sure to let you guys know. But there won't be one at least for a little while. I know you guys have nothing else better to do, but you're going to have to just suffer and wait. So you need a history of Wonder Woman 2014? Here's your history. I sat in bed and drew that, thought I was a badass. Fast forward 6 years later and I realized it sucked. So there's your history, Hayashi. And then recent history, Matt colored it because why?
Why not?
But anyway, yeah, we'll let you guys know when the next stream is. Tentatively, we don't know. So, but we will let you guys know soon. This has been super fun. Honestly, it was really cool. I learned a lot tonight. So, with that, I think we will say goodnight to everybody and Peace out.